All right, how's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a Tuesday. It is about 10:52 a.m. California time here, December 31st, 2024. Last time I get to say 2000. Well, I'm going to do an update later tonight, but goodness, New Year's Eve approaching tomorrow, 2025. Can you believe it? Already, this year seems to have passed by super quick. Latest activity here on the Earthquake 3D Globe shows a 1.1 into California. We'll get to the earthquake activity here in a little bit. Want to chat about space weather activity. It looks like we finally got hit by that CME plasma cloud here within the last hour or so. KP index finally jumping up here on the charts, up around the 4 range, 5 range on some of the models. We are expecting this to go up to around the 6 to 7 range, which would be a KP index, or which would be KP index of 7, a G3 class storm. Now the late arrival here puts us at odds of seeing the auroras on the North American side here of the planet, obviously. But of course, for those over there across Europe, Asia area, you got a decent chance of seeing the auroras right now. That includes Iceland, Greenland area. That whole area could see some beautiful, spectacular auroras right now and throughout the evening. So we got to wait a little bit here for the States and Canada as it gets a little bit darker. We are expecting this to continue into the evening. If we look at the Aurora forecast, here is the expected view line in that red area right here. Of course, overhead going to be much brighter. Unfortunately, again, it looks like the peak of this is going to hit us on the North American side during the our daylight time. So bad timing for us, but good for the folks on the opposite side of the world where it's dark, and I'm sure a lot of folks are pending clear skies, able to see the auroras up there. So there's still currently a geomagnetic storm warning in effect, as that CME has hit the planet. Let's check out the real-time solar wind stream. Make sure I got the latest data here. You can clearly see when that CME hit us here within the last couple hours. Obviously, disturbances in the density, the speed of the solar wind stream really ramped up here, and temperature and whatnot. Right now, we're getting a little bit of fluctuation here in the BZ-BT component of the interplanetary magnetic field. If these red dots, these little run dots here, stay below this line, that's a good sign. That will amplify the auroras today, and also through the evening. But should this close up here and look something similar to this, then that should suppress the auroras. But right now, a little bit of fluctuation in that. KP index hasn't ramped up to the G3 class storm yet, but we are watching it closely. And again, later tonight, should be a little bit better view. We'll definitely watch for that. Flaring activity have pretty much calmed down here in the last 24 hours. Nothing above the M flare category. Had one, looks like one little M 1.01 yesterday. Nothing like what we had seen here prior to that. We had a number of M flares and a couple X flares in there as well. So things right now are just kind of tapering off. That doesn't mean that we're done with the X flare activity. A couple active regions that were throwing off some M flares are now pretty much out of sight here on the western limb. They will continue to rotate back around the far side of the sun. We're left with a number of sunspots out here. Now, this regional sunspot group had produced some decent flaring here in the past few days. It is center disk looking directly at us. So if anything does amplify here, we'll see the auroras, or we'll see the solar flare activity and subsequent CME, hopefully, directed at the Earth. Again, that's a regional sunspot directly facing the planet there. And here's the visible disk. This is a little bit old in terms of time frame. This group right here is a little bit more around this position. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that. 3939 and 3941. We'll have a couple different areas looking at us here for a couple days. And again, it looks like the auroras are starting to light up out there. Getting some decent chances. Active in the polar, unsettled. And again, it could be a good show tonight, pending we have clear skies and the solar wind stream dynamics stay as forecasted. All right, earthquake activity out here in the last 24 hours. Largest magnitude here, still, we got a 5-pointer around the Papua New Guinea area coming in within the last couple hours, 5 miles deep. Aside from that, the majority of all these moderate quakes are from yesterday. Literally, all these 4s from yesterday. If we didn't have this 5-pointer today, technically our most recent one would be a 4.3 in Ethiopia early this morning. So somewhat quiet so far this morning. Ethiopia still seeing some activity out there in their Great Rift Valley. This most likely due to a magma intrusion in the area. Have to watch that. It is starting to spread up a little bit further up north around that rift boundary. It's been seeing a lot of earthquake activity here in the last month or so. Got about 34 earthquakes here in the area of Ethiopia, the Great Rift Valley. I'm starting to think that this is more of a broader scale event instead of just localized to a volcano. That volcano over there is called Fantel. And, of course, they've been having, this pretty decent earthquake activity around it. But there's the volcano there on the map, the red triangle. But there's a lot of activity. Maybe later, dude. Maybe later. Sometimes I donate, sometimes I don't. But those warnings pop up. Please donate. Either way, this is starting to look like something more of a broad-scale event here instead of just localized to one volcano. Here's that volcano down here, that Fantel area. Some of these earthquakes are stretching, let's see, what do we got? 10, 20, 30 miles or so. More than that, maybe 40 miles, 50 miles away from this volcano. So it looks like maybe some bigger type of event about ready to pop out here, potentially. We'll have to watch that. Any type of area that's, thinning of the crust, so to speak, could see some further, maybe new volcano activity out here. Might see something bigger. Definitely keep an eye on that because it's been ramping up out there in the rift zone. California-wise, let's see what we got out here across the west coast. One earthquake, up in Washington, outside of Mount St. Helens, a little 0.9. Little earthquake activity outside of Mount Rainier as well with a 1.6. Really nothing big going on out there for now. I am noticing some further activity in the Gorda ridges here. This is a spreading seafloor center. Notice those ridges. This is due to the plate boundary dynamics. One area moving this way and one area moving that way down into the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. And, of course, when things get busy out here across this area, that normally puts a strain here across the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. So we'll watch the southern end of the Cascadia with this new activity out here in the Gorda Ridges. Most likely we'll see some tremor activity stirring up down into the subduction zone of the Cascadia, that little 2.8 from early this morning. Number of earthquakes here in Northern California, just offshore as well. The latest one at 2.7. 2.8 there off the coast of Northern California as well. Bunch of 2s out there, but again, we'll continue to keep an eye on this area for some further movement. Nevada is still seeing quite a bit of activity stirring up following that 5.7 earthquake struck out here a couple weeks ago. That, goodness, that's a lot of aftershock activity here. 650 earthquakes to be exact following that 5.7. That's a pretty big number out there. Today alone, we got about 28 earthquakes of various small magnitudes, including all the small microquake activity as well. Through the Bay Area, pretty quiet. Nothing major going on there through Southern California for now. Just kind of keeping an eye on things out here. A handful of smaller quakes, but really nothing above that level in terms of 2.5 and above. The rest of the states out here, some minimal movement outside of Yellowstone here, it looks like. There's that 1.7 earthquake. Remember last night when I was doing this update, I noticed some type of weird signature on the Yellowstone seismograph stations, and it looks like they went back and added that earthquake that was not on the map from yesterday. So that's going to be that 1.7. We noticed a little odd reading there on the graph. Couldn't figure out where it was, but it looks like it was centered off of the Yellowstone area within the Silvergate region of it says Silvergate, Montana, but that's well south of there, 24 miles south. Let me check the Yellowstone overview here real quick and see what we got. Let's pull this up here real quick. Yeah, a couple of smaller earthquakes out here in the last 24 hours. Really nothing big. Maple Creek area, seen a couple smaller quakes, and I'm pretty certain Yellowstone or USGS showed some of that activity up here. Very small microquake activity, but hey, at least they're reporting that. Through the rest of the country out here, minimal movement through Oklahoma and Kansas area, some elevated activity across the oil fields of Texas, and another earthquake out here. Outside of the new Madrid seismic zone, a 2.0 from early this morning. That's been a busy spot here recently, I would say. If you look at the last 30 days here of new Madrid seismic activity, got about 20 earthquakes here in that hazard zone. This is an area that's seen a series of large earthquakes back in 1811, 1812. And yeah, that's history, right? But fault systems don't, sometimes they die out and never see earthquake activity again. But this area is building up some steam here. It's definitely alive. And, one day we'll produce another series of large earthquakes. Now, whether 200 and something years pass has been enough for strain to produce another big one, that's, it's definitely a topic to discuss, because it's been quite active out here recently in that zone. Let's see what else we got. Big Island of Hawaii, I still believe, is rocking and rolling with the eruption out there. Let's go check that out real quick, see what we have. Summit webcam up here still shows some fountaining going on there across the crater wall area of Kilauea volcano. Interesting though, right? I mean, most of the time we normally see an eruption or a fissure open up directly in the lava lake area further away from the crater, but hey, that found a weak spot in the area, and there was enough volume of magma below the region to produce this eruption. It's filling up the area, but not not a whole bunch. Still pretty neat to see. Limited though, of course, the area of that sidewall of the Kilauea volcano. That's pretty neat. It should last for a little while, I'm guessing, with the amount of inflation across the area recently. Still going down though, obviously, because we're losing that volume of magma as it shoots up from the surface there. Notice that here in the last week of inflation. This is inflation. Here's the last two eruptions. We had a little pause there for a couple days. It went back up, and then we're at our current eruption here, and we're starting to go back down. But we're still quite elevated. If you look at the last year of activity here, things still way up here compared to any other time there, even in the past 5 years. All right, let's see what else we got here. Take a look at the Earthquake 3D globe. Some newer threes out there across New Zealand area. Nothing major going on there across the Kumano Ridge of Japan. Some movement across Taiwan, but really nothing big for now. And of course, our planet just got hit with the CME. We'll see if things start to ramp up here in the earthquake department following the arrival of that solar plasma cloud. Got a little bit of activity stirring up here across the plate boundary of Turkey. That's where that that's where that 7-pointer struck here last year. Was it last year? Yeah, last year. Series of earthquakes out here. USGS not reporting that, but there's looks like some 4s and some 2s out there stirring up. The Atlantic Ocean, pretty quiet. Not a whole lot happening out there for now, folks. So, yeah, it looks like things are starting to ramp up there on the Aurora. So later, after dark, I mean, anytime after dark here, if you got clear skies, that should amplify the viewing possibilities out here for the Aurora. So get outside after dark if you can. Not going to be way down south. This ain't going to be no Florida type event, limited probably to the northern tier states here. For severe weather, we got a marginal risk for some severe weather out there with a 2% chance for some tornado activity. A little bit of wind and some hail threats out there as well across the Philadelphia area, Baltimore, Washington, D.C. Looks like, portions of Ohio over here as well. So just heads up there for some of those storms that are firing up throughout the day today associated with that low pressure system. As we put this into motion here, Northern California got a little precipitation maker coming in here. Looks like Friday into Saturday a little bit, and then that's when things start to get interesting out here in terms of cold weather and interaction with the warmer air down south here. Could have some ice storm, could have some snow above that, could have some severe weather in there as well. More than likely severe weather potential as we enter into the new year. But a lot of cold air coming down. Look at that. There's cold air well south, even into the Corpus Christi area of Texas. That is a lot of cold air. Look at that. Wow. So much below normal temperatures out here for these folks. Look at that. That is an impressive cool pool of air centered across the center portion of the country. The majority of the eastern portion of the country as well. I'm telling you, 20 to 30 degrees below average, not below normal. I mean below below zero, but 30 degrees below normal, below average. And of course, some of those may be below zero in the states that are normally super cold. Out here in California, kind of warm and average, or above average, I should state. And that's going to linger around for a little bit. Looks like there might be another significant cold blast coming in after the 15th of January. So a look at the total accumulated precipitation runs in terms of rainfall or snowfall. There's a little bit out there. I think a lot of this is going to be snow. Let me see here. Total snowfall out here. Ooh, look at that. You guys want some snowfall? Now, this is just an iffy model. This is a GFS model, but it's trending snowier across this area. Louisiana, some snow down there. Along the Gulf Coast, it's happened. Seen some snow down there across the Freeport area, Texas here a few years back. So it happens when these cold blasts come down from the north. So get ready. Snow headed down there. This is the snow model. That is pretty crazy there, including some sleet. So we get that ice storm and stuff like that up here across this area of Arkansas, Tennessee region. But we'll check back on that as we get a little bit closer there to that time period. Seismograph stations here. One earthquake on Petrolia. Not showing up on Dinsmore yet. Looks like that went offline about the time that happened. Southern California, down there across China Lake, has been seeing a little bit of small earthquake activity. They have not been reporting that small activity there in Southern California around China Lake, as noted, but there's some type of swarm going on there. And, of course, this most recent earthquake there across Petrolia not being reported as well. And it's just a certain magnitude that California has cut off, or certain regions have cut off. Like, that's a legit earthquake showing up there on the Petrolia station. Very small one, but it's still an earthquake, and I've seen hundreds of those, and they have not been reported out here. So just know that there's still earthquake activity happening out there, getting some movement down Southern California as well, even though it's not showing it. But things look like they're starting to move out here across the West Coast right now. All right, folks, have a good one. If you get any awesome Aurora shots, feel free to share them with the channel here. earthmastermail@gmail.com is the email if you feel like sharing with the other viewers out here. And again, after dark here, keep your eyes open there to the north. You got some active conditions prevailing. Should continue well into the evening tonight. So have fun. We'll catch you guys back out here a little bit later on this evening. Take care.